All right. Hello. Welcome to the Loyalty and Friends podcast, man. It is going down. We got a special guest, Mr. Alexander Sivvy. And yes, let me bring him up here. There you go. I see our guest right here in the building. It's good to see you, Alex. So you all, we had part one of this interview on Instagram Live. So make sure you tap into the Instagram for the part one. But we want to dive a little deeper, okay? So we're gonna be on here maybe about 10 to 12 minutes max. So we can jump over to Clubhouse for a Q&A style. So if you want to ask some questions and really get involved in the conversation, you don't have to be seen. It's just the audio room. Join us on Clubhouse, okay? In the Loyalty and Friends house on Clubhouse, all right? But with that being said, Alex, man, let's just jump into it, man. Our brother Alex, he is a life coach. So some questions I have, if they really want to know who you are, they definitely got to tap into the first part. But I got some questions. I want to just dive into it, okay? So you talk about your childhood and trauma that you kind of went through. Can you kind of explain some of that trauma and what that looked like for you?
Ooh, man, there was so many things that went on early childhood. Started when I was 8 months. Well, in my mom's womb, her sister got brutally murdered and raped.
Mm.
Um, so bad to where they couldn't identify the body. So when my mom went to go identify the body, she saw the birthmark on her right leg, like where the butt cheek would be at, and bam, that's when the true trauma came in the room. So when I came out, probably about, I think I was about 4 or 3 years old. Mom was going through a lot, and she tried to commit suicide.
Mm.
And when she was committing suicide, I was the one that found her, and she was already on the third cut. And I was like, "No, mommy, no, mommy, no." Man, my dad came in like I'll never forget dad. He came in like sliding like a baseball player sliding the home plate, and that it was a steak knife, and he pulled the steak knife out of it. I had the steak knife in my hand too. I was like, "Mommy, no, mommy, no," and that's where the real trauma kicked in.
Mm.
Such a young age, your subconscious mind is just starting to program, at 3 years old. So seeing my mom go through that, I think about a year later, she started talking to me, and she was just telling me like what was really going on in life. Um, and what happened to Titi, and just things like that she went through in her life. And I was like, man, so I kind of like started hearing things that mostly adults would hear, but I was hearing it at a younger age. That kind of led into 5 years old to 7 years old. Between those times, I'm not really sure what actual date those were. But my mom and dad got divorced.
Mm.
I'm not going to really mention what was the main cause of it. But what I could say is, it wasn't good. Dad had to raise us. Mom was no longer around. And,
Mm.
we was living in Chicago, and probably one of the, vicious neighborhoods in the city at the time in the
Right.
early 90s. And there was a lot of gang wars going on. Two gangs was really fighting for colors and territory rights and status. And while there was killing out each other and the ones that was going to jail, they started recruiting the little kids. And
Mm.
at 5 years old in Chicago, if you was out, in the 90s, it wasn't like kids playing video games. We was outside playing, on the, at the park, and, playing baseball, shooting basketball. So, if you was I was 5 years old, and like in my neighborhood, you couldn't play sports unless you could do a backflip. So I was already like flipping at 5, playing sports, and one of the gangs kind of grabbed me and was like, "Hey, got a little violation," and was considered a peewee, and kind of seen a lot of things. They kind of looked out for me in a
Mm.
way, because the neighborhood was, they was doing a good thing. They was kind of protecting the neighborhood at that time. Then you fast forward 1996, that's when the year like Tupac got shot. Things
Right.
changed.
I
Things changed.
remember.
Yeah, it changed dramatically. Now there was this Eastern War battle going on, and we was dead in the middle. And no, we was still Gang Bang City. And a lot of the older leaders got arrested or died, and the newer guys was coming up, and they just was, there was no structure, and they was kind of doing a lot of things bad to the neighborhood. A lot of drugs came in. A lot of this leadership structure just fell, and there was no structure, no leadership at all in the community. Before it was like they'll buy ice cream for the whole neighborhood, and then that's how they won the kids over. And then next thing you know, they started, teaching you about how to, hustle. And then they was teaching you, how to shoot a gun. And then next thing you know, you was fighting the next block, and next thing you know, you was on the block on patrol. Um, like during that time too, dad was trying to hold us down, and mom came back, and that was a lifesaver, because during the time when mom was gone, man, dad had babysitters that was babysitting us. They was molesting us. They dropped us off in 𝒂𝒏𝒕 Green project one day, and I don't know if you know 𝒂𝒏𝒕 Green, but that is like the roughest project that's been in the history book. It's like 30 stories high. They you ever seen that movie Candyman? Well, that part of Candyman, that is the project. It was one of the first projects that they started really knocking down, because of the amount of crime that was going on, and this is the highest peak of the crime.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of drive-bys happen. I got caught in one at a young age. One of the gang members tackled me. He took a bullet, and I was able to walk alive, but still got hit with a little fragment of the shotgun shell, of the shotgun BB that was in there, in my right shoulder. And nobody knew about that for 7 years. Kept that on the low low. Um, well, fast forward that, dad was doing his best to get us out of the city before high school. My older brother was just getting to high school. I was approaching high school soon. And, dad already knew, and my mom knew, like, hey, we got to get these guys out the hood, out of this area. It's, it was bad in the 90s. So, they got us to Texas. But I still had that game banging mentality. I brought
Right.
that back to the South.
And that's the thing, you can change the environment, but if it's in you, you know what I'm saying, and that's what you used to, then that's kind of like what we kind of revert back to in our lifestyle, So it sometimes can be fortunate and unfortunate as well. And so I want to let's kind of switch gears a little bit, all right? Because you explained where you kind of went into prison, not necessarily prison, but you were arrested, and that kind of just was the game changer for you. So kind of speak on that, like, because I want to know, like, what inspired you to become a life coach. That's big. We want to know, like,
Oh
what
man,
inspired you.
it was actually a story. Um, I was actually in my 20s. I moved back to Chicago, and I seen a person that was actually doing a video. And it was a TEDx speak, and there was a lady up there that went through all the stuff that I was going through, and my eyes just glued to that TV. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to like tell somebody this story one day.
Right.
And a good friend of mine um, asked me, man, Alex, how do you handle all these things, and been going through all these different challenges, and been through all this stuff, and like been able to like get through this?
Right.
And I went into my room, man. I grabbed the Holy Bible, and I handed it right to him. He's like, really, Alex? Like this, man? My brother's been talking about this, but I don't like, really could relate to this. Like, this isn't something that, like, really? I'm like, dude, trust me, man. And I told him about the story that I was telling you earlier on Instagram, how when I was 17, and when I was in, there was a county jail, they, an individual that was in there, he was an old pastor that kind of got, you know, messed up on drugs and stuff. And he was teaching us how to read the Bible. And one of the guys was like, hey, man, when I came out of my holding tank, I came out of I had a visitor, and I was going back into the cell block. He's like, man, you got to go sit down with this guy right now. And I kind of like looked at him, and I'm like, man, the way he's telling me, like, I got to go sit down. So I went and
Right.
I sat down to
You had to
him.
be obedient.
Man, I had to be obedient. I'm like, hey, I don't want no
Right.
problem. And he was like sitting like guarding the door, but they was waiting for me to come back for some reason. And the man's like, man, you don't belong here, man, at all. And I just want to show you how to read the Bible, and I want to read a scripture to you. And he was showing me like the lowercase g and how that was talking about other gods. And they're like, then he get into the story about the potter. I don't remember exactly what scripture that is. I'm gonna have to find that out like to the T. But it's the story of the potterer, and he's they're taking the clay and the mud and they forming this vase. And he's like, dude, you're your own vase in your life. And the thing is, it's like when you're looking at yourself, just like this potter was forming this beautiful vase that he kind of didn't like after a while. Well, you could destroy it and you could put some new clay
You
and
can
add new
reshape it.
water and just reshape it and form it back again.
Right. And create another version of what you want to paint. Right. So let's switch it a little bit more because we got a couple more minutes and I got a couple questions for you. Okay. So I know that you're a life coach now and that's what you're passionate about. That's what you're out here doing to really encourage others and inspire them to be their best selves and kind of get through the trauma. Right. So how do you balance? Like, are you dating? Why are you doing this? Are you married? Like, I know some people want to know. Like, how do
I'm
you
a
balance?
single bachelor.
Okay.
Single bachelor. Yeah, I haven't dated since I left Austin, Texas, since the lockdown for COVID.
And why is that? Like, are you interested in dating, or are you just
Oh,
like kind of taking a pause on it?
absolutely, absolutely. Well, I came out here to kind of help my mom. She was battling breast cancer, so I came
Okay,
out here, to help her through the chemo treatments, and then do the reconstructive surgery. We ended up beating cancer, so I kind of was, focused on her, focused on mama. Plus, I had a career change. I was running a nightclub in Austin, Texas. This is the one right here, and
okay,
I ended up leaving that place and decided to go help people. My mom was the first one, and then I started helping out in the community. I was running a staffing agency. I got a job down here, so I ended up relocating. Like when you move from like Texas to Florida, it's kind of hard to start dating. Like once you get established, like I was trying to get established. I was living with her for like the first 6 months, and
right,
then eventually I got this place that I'm living at now, this house.
okay. So what does dating look like to you? Like what would your ideal woman be like if so that people can know? Because I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you got some ladies who might be watching this. They might be interested in Mr. Alexander Sylvie. Don't play with you.
Me, I'm a simple man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking for a woman that I could grow trust with and be loyal with. I'm a pretty honest man, but I like to hunt and fish, and like I gotta have some of my time, so she can't be too codependent on me. Is the main key.
Absolutely. She gotta have some things going for herself as well.
You gotta know how to stay busy. Like I don't need a
Right.
phone call every 30 minutes while I'm trying to, hunt a deer and bring home dinner, or be fishing out there or something like that. But somebody that really could understand and relate with me and know like the principle of being grounded with Jesus, like and having some kind of spiritual background. I can actually marry without having her in my same belief system, but she has to be grounded spiritually. Um,
Absolutely.
where we can meditate, get grounded together. She's got to be able to help me as much as I can help her. Of course, she's got to have the beauty, the outside beauty to come with it. But I'm more like centered on the heart and where your heart's at.
Right.
Are you gonna know about like being unconditional love? Could you be tolerant if I mess up? Could I tolerate you when you mess up? Are you gonna be
Right.
forgiving? Could we communicate after a fight? You
Right.
know, um,
So we
things
got to
like
be
that.
confrontational, not confrontational, right? Because we can always
Absolutely.
have a conversation. It doesn't always have to be confrontational when you even when you have disagreements. So I truly believe in that. So Alice, I want to first thank you so much for coming on here. We're gonna switch gears, man. If you want to talk to him, you can be right there on the stage with us in the audio room on Clubhouse because we get ready to join the audio room and it's Q&A style. So I know y'all got some questions. So yes, join us in the Loyalty and Friends house on Clubhouse, man. We would love to have y'all. But yes, let them know how they can support you, Alex, and how they can connect with you before we end this live.
Yeah, you can connect with me on Instagram or Facebook at Instagram handles _Alexander Sylvie, SYLVIE. And just click the link on my bio. There's a link tree bio there, and you could, if you want, you could schedule a consultation call with me. That's a free call for anybody that's wanting to book on that. And then I have all my social media handles there, so everything's pretty much there. You could join fans plan. I mean, everything's there to really contact me from there. Facebook, Owl, Clubhouse. Also got my YouTube page, Hold Your Mouth Anglers. That's mostly fishing on there. But if you really want to get a hold of me, man, hit me on my DM or schedule a book a call with me on my LinkedIn.
Absolutely. So thank you, man. This has been phenomenal. Watch part 2 on the Instagram live on the Loyalty and Everything Instagram page, of course. But also, man, come join us, man, because we about to get into it. Okay, the conversation don't end here. So thank you, Alice. I really appreciate you. And we're gonna sign out for now. Okay. Until next time, you all.
Peace.
Later.